How do I say your last name?
Oh, that you're not going to remember. Aalhus.
Aalhus. Marilyne Aalhus.
You got it.
I got this.
If you
This
say
is
it
easy.
once, then you're done.
That's all I have to do. I got to go fast. Welcome back to another episode of Airdrie Inside. My name is Chris Glass. I am your host, and I'm with Marilyne Aalhus. And I said that right, and I felt good doing it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I understand I am your first guest since our municipal election.
Yes,
so
you
let's
are.
just rip the Band-Aid and just wish you a huge congratulations. Obviously, it's an exciting time.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be serving the city of Airdrie, and the next 4 years are going to be really exciting. And we fully intend to continue the show and try to lift up some of the hidden gems and the hidden stories that Airdrie has. And Airdrie has so many.
We do. We are a booming and bustling community. And yeah, our council has a lot of work cut out for you. So
Right.
I can't wait to hear all the next 4 years and what we can expect from our city.
We just spent 9 hours talking about the Municipal Governmental Affairs Act. So I'm hoping it's not always that dry, but we're off to the races is what I'm saying.
Lots of learning. No, it's going to be wonderful.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and your role here in Airdrie.
Sure. So I am the current executive director of the Airdrie Regional Chamber of Commerce. I've been in my role for 7 years.
Wow.
And I love it. I love the diversity in our city. I love the growth. There's always room for change, and our chamber is always prepared to evolve and adapt. But yeah, it's a wonderful organization that I'm very proud to lead.
And a very active organization. I see so many events being put on by you and really promoting all things Airdrie and all things Airdrie business.
Yeah, it's a lot of events. There's no doubt someone who looks at our calendar goes, how is that possible? But we make sure that we give variety for
Right.
large, mid-size, and small businesses. So the one thing we've gotten, I think, quite exceptional at is bringing in representation from all over the province, making sure that our businesses are being heard at all levels of government. And we work really closely with our municipality, with our elected officials, provincially and federally, to be that voice. Because we aren't the government. So that's a good thing. Our chamber gets to tell people what they need and what the government needs to do to support business.
And that's a little bit more freeing. You're able to speak your mind, but you still have to be very strategic in how you do that.
Correct.
That's very
We're always a partner with our local government. We're bipartisan, but whoever is in elected office, we work directly with them
Of course.
at really just championing business and doing our best to support local.
So before we get into what the chamber actually does, I want to learn a little bit more about you. So you said you've been in this role for 7 years.
Yeah.
What brought you to this role and what brought you to Airdrie?
Honestly, I think it's actually full circle. I started off with a business degree out of Edmonton. That's where I grew up, just north of Edmonton. And honestly, I had a bucket list. I needed to take broadcasting. That was something. I was in marketing. I was taking my BCom. And I just kept on saying to my parents, I think I need to be a broadcaster. So that's what brought me to Calgary. I actually met my husband working for Global News.
Okay.
So he's been there for 25 years. I left when I was 9 months pregnant with our daughter, and she's 19. So I left the broadcasting world and I went back, and actually I pursued nonprofit more than I did business. And I had really, really wonderful experience in the nonprofit sector in Calgary. And then full circle, I came to Airdrie, and I remember driving by the chamber office. I was a few years living here, and I thought, one day I'm going to work there, and I think this is going to be the right fit. So
Excellent.
Fast forward 7 years, I've been there.
So that serendipitous moment of driving by, you knew this is where you were going to be.
It just made sense. I had worked in, obviously, I love supporting local and nonprofit, but I wanted to use my business assets, my business background. And I had done that a lot in my world before, and it was just the right fit. So
When I was in high school, I had my graduation, and one of the guys in my graduation party brought a grad date along, Dallas Flex Hog. So that's my connection to Global. We're still friends to this day. So
that's awesome.
Dallas, if you're listening to the show, we gave you a bit of a shout out here. So
I actually just asked her where she got her extensions. I might be going to get them at the same hairdresser. But yeah, so to me, it was worth it. I met my husband. We've been together for 25 years, and we met in broadcasting. So yeah.
I found, though, the more you're in front of a microphone and the more you're in front of a camera, the easier it is to convey your ideas when you're in a smaller setting. So those skills are really transferable.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I learn a lot about, what would be my best, what would I miss the most if I left the chamber? Obviously, it's the people, it's all the connections that you make. But I love being in front of a room and learning from others, but also being able to teach others. So
Right.
that's probably the favorite part that I get to do on a regular basis.
Now, I've also heard a rumor from members of the chamber that this podcast is quite popular with the chamber.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Is
with
we're
our
getting-
members?
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard it's getting listened to quite a bit.
Well,
from the
it was
chamber.
funny because I actually told my team a while back that I had been invited onto this podcast, and I personally actually hadn't listened before. And they're like, "What do you mean you hadn't heard about it?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then, of course, over the last few months, everybody's been talking about it, and now I'm finally here.
Well, that's great. That's good news for us, Britt. That's people are listening. That's
Yes.
excellent.
Well done.
So, what kind of work does it for people who don't know? What kind of work does the chamber do?
Yeah, so we are known for events and connection. Like, I
Right.
think people first and foremost want to be part of something bigger. And that is probably the primary reason people join their local chamber. They learn as well,
Yeah.
and not just about business and leadership and all that, but they actually really learn about their community through their local chamber of commerce. We do have a pulse on what's happening. So we obviously are one of the first people to teach them what to expect with downtown revitalization, other things that are really in the works.
Yeah.
But what most people don't realize is the amount of advocacy work that's being done behind the scenes at all levels of government. So, for example, I have a gentleman coming into town in the next week to talk about solar farms in the county and whether or not people are pro-solar or, anti using the land. And so we talk to a lot of different stakeholders and decide, is this a good business decision for our region? Does this have positive impact on businesses? And so, yeah, everything from passing policies that pertain to insurance premiums
Yeah.
to you name it, we do our best to try to mediate like big, heavy, hard decisions for business. And we really do act as that local voice.
That's fantastic. How many members are certainly in the council? In the chamber right now?
We have 625 members.
625.
Yeah. So if I don't remember all of your names, I promise you I want to. We have so many active members. Like, we have such an awesome chamber. But we're a mid-sized chamber. We're still growing. Like, we have
Yeah.
lots of room for growth, and we look forward to growing as our community continues to.
Now, what kind of challenges is a business? I know it's a tough environment right now globally with inflation and just the cost of everything going up and tariffs on top of that.
Yeah.
What are some of the unique challenges that businesses in Airdrie are facing?
Still employment.
Yeah.
There's still this weird mismatch of the skills that are required and the people that are looking for work. We host job fairs. So for the first time, I had no intentions on hosting job fairs because honestly, that's not our focus as a chamber of commerce.
Yeah.
But the province saw a need and they said, who are we going to grant this revenue to? Chambers. Because they know we'll do the right thing with that money.
Right.
So
You're trusted.
Yeah. Champions of business. We're going to put the money to really to hard work. So we actually partnered with a few of our local agencies, Prospect being one, Manpower, and we host these large job opportunities. But it was wild. 1,500 job seekers showed up to our last job fair. We're going to be doing another one in March of next year. And that was never the case 2, 3, 4 years ago. So we're back at this understanding. The government realizes there's a need for these things. They are providing funding, and we are the ones championing those job fairs. And we're taking it further. We're regionalizing it, making sure that employers around the region have access to these job fairs. Another big one is surprisingly transportation for employees, just getting people. There's large manufacturing in the county. There's some in Airdrie. How do people get to work? How do they access, honestly, shift work, things of that nature, when there's a lot of newcomers coming and they don't have access to a vehicle? So we're hearing different stories than we did 4 or 5 years ago.
That's interesting. And you talk about the regionality of it. Airdrie's in the name, but we're so integrated with our partners and Rockview County and even Calgary. I mean, it's right there. So
if you think Airdrie is a large population, but people do sometimes have to commute for work, right? And so how do we get those commuters into the workforce? And that has a ripple effect into Balzac, into Calgary.
Right.
And so, we're hearing a lot about the Balzac market. most of their employees live in Airdrie or the city, and not all of them have access to transportation to get out there. So those are the partnerships. We do need to work with our county and our city to problem solve on how do you get those manufacturing employees in mass out on site to do the job.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the biggest challenges. How does that work? Do the regional partners sit in the chamber as well?
That's what we're trying.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's never...
So tell me about that.
Yeah, it's not actually been... So the chamber, I'll kind of give you a little bit of a history lesson on who our chamber is. So the chamber was established in 1973, so we're over 50 years old. Your colleague did a beautiful video for us, Britain,
yes,
for our 50th anniversary. Thank you. So we've celebrated being a regional chamber. And then in 2009, I don't know the history. I wasn't with our chamber at the time. They actually dropped the word district out of our name, but they didn't change our boundaries.
Okay.
So we were always regional. We had some ranchers, even Apple Creek or Your Local Ranch. These really cool businesses on the outskirts of our city have always been chamber members. Fast forward, my arrival to the chamber, I look at the map and I go, why aren't we doing anything in the county?
Yeah.
So finally, it took years. We're back. We've regionalized. Our name has changed over the last few years. And absolutely, businesses... Although there's competitiveness, and there always will be, 9 times out of 10, they want to collaborate and learn and build from each other. So to not work with, say, a Balzac business, it often doesn't make any... we want leaders to lead. We want them to learn from each other.
Right.
So right now, our leadership conference happens to be in Balzac, but a lot of people from Airdrie come. And that's kind of the trend. They come to both just because it makes sense, right?
I've always been surprised. You mentioned that people are competitive, but they still want to learn and work with each other. I think of our breweries as a prime example of competitors that have lifted each other up and found ways to kind of talk about common good and that. So do you see other industries kind of following that example?
All the time.
Yeah.
When I look at the accounting firms, they know there's enough business to go around.
Yeah, nobody's going to go
they're
without accounting.
this one actually it probably doesn't work for my particular client base. I'll recommend you to someone else. There's so much of that collaboration.
Right.
Same thing even with law firms. It's no, I don't practice that law, but this is a call that I would highly recommend this gentleman or this wonderful lawyer. So yeah, we've noticed that Airdrie still has that wonderful collaboration.
Right.
And even we just celebrated our business awards. It's not everybody gets to win. I wish everybody could win, but everyone truly does feel like a winner, and everyone there is there to celebrate one another. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, there were some great winners when I looked at that list. Some businesses that I've used before, even some kids I've coached that were on stage with the pest control guy there. Seeing JSO up there was pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you see in the near future and the long-term future for the chamber?
That's a great question. So we work on a strategic plan. We just reviewed it this fall. Honestly, we see a lot more regionalization in the sense of, and we've learned that people want bigger leaders to tell their stories because those leaders exist right here.
Yeah.
So we're actually calling on some really cool stories that have already shown. So for example, our holiday luncheon, we haven't even announced this yet. So
are we breaking news?
We're breaking news.
Fantastic.
So Usman actually owns McDonald's franchises all over our region. And he is just an exceptional story. This guy came from a family who owned a convenience store to purchasing over 30 McDonald's franchises, which was almost unheard of. Young, fresh, just ideas coming out of, you have no idea how innovative this person is. And he'll be speaking at our holiday luncheon. But they always bring it back to Airdrie.
Right.
And the growth that they've seen in Airdrie, the youth that have learned from the McDonald way in Airdrie. It's cool, right? Just to bring it back home. So we're bringing in a lot more of those motivational stories that people can learn from and hopefully be inspired by. That being said, we're working with the CEO of the Stampede to come speak at our leadership conference.
Excellent.
Because people will learn from those truly inspiring stories, right? So we're bringing in, I think, a lot more talent to our events where people will see a name and recognize it and understand it. But we're noticing a lot more of the larger mid-sized businesses wanting to play a bigger part in helping those smaller mid-sized businesses.
Now, when you talk about the size of businesses, this could be as small as somebody with a shop in their house
100%.
or somebody with a giant factory. So
ProPack.
Yeah, ProPack.
Yeah.
So how do you find common ground between a company like ProPack and somebody who has a nail salon that's flying and doing great, but so different in scope?
So different in scope, whether it's like you said, a staff of like 1,500 to a staff of 2.
Right.
So we do scale back. Like some of our events are predominantly networking, really just catering to the smaller businesses. Like even we have a series now for under 40, for people that are entrepreneurs under 40 that are trying to relate and get to know like-minded people in their area of expertise. So we do give a ton of diversity. I think where the larger businesses will share is they're there to educate and to inform and be leaders in their community. So it's not so much for them to learn from their chambers, for them to share their message. That being said, we do bring in regularly ministers of tech, trade, and innovation, or ministers, that really do show you what's happening in our province. That is probably for the larger employer base. And then, of course, the leadership conference. They're usually our speakers when they're at that level, but they do cater to all different types of businesses so they can kind of learn from each other.
Right. So everybody can take something from it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. When we talk about some of those bigger industries, I know this was a hot topic at the election where everybody was talking about diversifying our tax base, right? Right now, lots in residential, not so much in commercial or business. What role does the chamber have in helping the city build out that industry in that way? It's a
great question. So we don't have a budget to travel abroad and bring in investment into our city. Like that ultimately is our city economic development staff. Right. Where I think we become leaders is hosting those events for the leaders to learn and be informed. So obviously, we're not out there doing investment attraction. Yeah. Do we become the voice of business on what they need from maybe their community or their city? Yes. Now, what I've noticed is, for example, the downtown revitalization. When I meet with vacant land lot owners,
right,
which we've all heard about.
There's a few.
It becomes a question of what kind of investment can our city bring in to make this an investment I'm willing to participate in.
Right.
So that's the hard part. It's like the chicken and the egg. So if the city could bring in some anchor tenants into the downtown, meaning economic development, of course, city staff, then those developers will have more of an appetite to build. So if they know that there's a marketing objective, there's objectives of what the land could be used for, who could potentially be interested in that land, that's where, so we have the conversations with current business owners, current, land owners. And then, of course, ultimately, the city has to play the biggest role in bringing those investments into our city.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I've been here 20 years now, and to see how the businesses have changed and you used to go from very unspecific places to very, I don't want to name too many names, but like Le Table, for example, having some of the best French pastry I've ever had globally here in Airdrie. Yeah. It's crazy to see how specific some of the businesses have gotten. How do we continue attracting or encouraging people to kind of open a non-traditional business here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, entrepreneurs are risk takers by nature,
Absolutely.
Right? And we've noticed a lot, and you probably understand this, a lot of new Canadians are risk takers. They're moving from another country.
They've already taken the biggest risk they're going to take.
I'm just going to keep going, right? I'm going to come here into this country and make my own life and make, my own business work. So we've noticed a lot of that in the diversity of the business climate in our city, for sure. A lot of new Canadians coming in, making these wonderful business ventures work. But I do think there's going to be so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about this. I'm sure I am. So we are actually working with economic development on a shop local understanding of where people want to spend their money and
Right.
support local. Because there is still a lot of curiosity on why people are willing to go to Calgary to spend more money.
Yeah,
And I think this is my personal opinion. This is Marilyne. This is not the chamber speaking.
of course.
I think from what I understand, like I grew up in a suburb to Edmonton, St. Albert. It's considered a more affluent suburb to Edmonton. It's like it's a more
Yeah.
affluent alternative. Whereas I think a lot of people came to Airdrie with a more affordable mindset to Calgary.
Right.
And I think that stayed. And that's been going on for many years. And I think there's still this like, I'm not willing to spend as much money in my community. I would rather go to a fancy meal in Calgary, or I'd
Right.
rather go to a different shopping outlet in Calgary or even at the mall than put money back into my city. So right now we're trying to understand why people are willing to spend more in other cities.
Right.
And that's part of the issue is like, and this is a good thing for Airdrie as a city, but not necessarily great for business, is when one business closes, another business will open
Right.
within months. Like
Yeah.
we're not talking about vacancies for years. We're talking about turnover within a matter of months. But that business who closed, that was a family.
Yeah.
Whether it was a franchise or not, like those are families investing. That is like I've cried with people. I've had full on like crying during COVID, during other times in their lives going, this is the best education you could have gotten. You had to try this out. It didn't work. Pick yourself up, get out there and do it again. Or, you'll go back to a 9-to-5, something that's a little bit more secure. But yeah, there's definitely that issue in Airdrie is like, the turnover is real, but the vacancy gets filled so quickly and the lease rates are so high that there's still a little bit of a disconnect on when a business fails, another one opens and it's kind of like forgotten, right?
Yeah. So how do we break that cycle? So I know you're investigating that now with ECDEV that you were talking about, but how can we...
I think zoning could play a part.
Okay, tell me more.
So where we are today in this particular area, like I think about the Kings Heights area and some of the zoning that's been approved. So churches going into industrial areas, different types of zoning that the city has made work.
Yeah.
But a lot of the cool, trendy type businesses they can't afford the lease rates that would make sense in the more high traffic areas. So they're choosing areas where they're hidden, like where they're kind of off the beaten path because it's an affordable option. And I know our city can't change lease rates. That's decided by developers.
Yeah.
But our city can continue to grow and provide more alternative space.
Right.
It's all going to be new construction. We all know that's going to be a more expensive price point than a small, older building on Main Street. But yeah, it's going to come down to vacancy. And if there is more vacancy, then hopefully there's going to be more attractive locations for those types of businesses.
See, I've always found, and this is my opinion, some people may disagree with me, but I've always found Calgary very difficult to deal with and Airdrie very simple to deal with. And I think that's such a huge selling point when it comes to doing business or running events or anything like that. You're one phone call away and it's so much easier to get things done in the city. So if you were talking to a potential business person, what would you sell Airdrie on?
Obviously, we still have that connection that you don't find in the big cities. There's absolutely no doubt. Honestly, I talk to chambers all over the country and we are such a safe community.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. When I talk about the crime rate in different communities, I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Like seriously, that we live in such a great city and we sometimes take that for granted. I don't hear about businesses being, and knock on wood, being broken into regularly or vandalism being done on a regular basis in this city. I think we have great law enforcement. I think we have really, really a great opportunity for a family to kids ride their bikes to wherever they're going. Like businesses are in good hands when it comes to Airdrie. But I do find, so here's the challenge. I've heard a lot of people talk about this and I've tried to understand why businesses are closing even though our population keeps growing. And the reality is we have more competition than ever before.
Yeah.
And although our population has grown, do we have enough capacity for similar businesses in the same city. So when I say similar, I'm talking about like the fitness industry, for example. Like we see a lot of closures in some of those in food and beverage, like food restaurants type. So that's a big question is we're not Calgary. So when we are bringing in these businesses, are they going to be sustainable when competition just continues to evolve and grow as well, right? So our population grows, but so does your competition. Your costs are at an all-time high. So it is always that competitiveness and how easy can you actually get by? How many coffees can you sell to pay for that lease?
Yeah.
Right? It's a challenge. Yeah.
Well, you're talking about safety. My wife moved here from England a long time ago, but when she moved in with me, when we were just starting a romance, she was shocked how little I locked my door. And she's like, in England, we have like bars and stuff like that. Like she lived in London proper, right? And that was just something they grew up with as kids. And then you come to Airdrie and like you could leave. It's not recommended, but you can leave your door open, like wide open, and somebody will knock on it and go, hey, do you need to close this? Or
your garage door has been open for a day. Yeah.
So I really do like that you've highlighted the safety of our city and that. I'm a huge proponent of the sports tourism industry and event tourism and how I think that could help support our local businesses. So do you have anything to say on that? Like, where do you land on events and sports?
Yeah, obviously we want our hotels full. We want our recreation facilities, our second one soon to come, to be at capacity, which I do think our businesses benefit for sure.
Right.
The one thing that we hear over and over is that although people do support local, people often leave because they're doing other things outside of our city. So how do we keep the residents here in addition to bringing in sports tourism, in addition to having tournaments and all those great things? When I talk to our hotels, admittedly, they have a few really busy seasons, summer, Stampede, all of that.
Yeah.
And then tournaments and things that bring in, honestly, those are their two biggest attractions to fill our hotels. I believe we have 8 in Airdrie. And like their capacity is about 60% at other times of year, whereas our bigger winter tournaments and things like that. And then of course, summer being our next most by far. Yeah. But yeah, I feel sports tourism. I feel Airdrie needs a little bit more of an identity on who we are as a city. And we've been talking about that. I've had conversations with the possibility of a tourism task force in Airdrie. That's something that's been on the table for years, and now it's coming back to life. I just had a consultant give me a call. We did a brainstorming. This
is music to my ears, by the way. I love that.
Yeah. So this is all information being obviously digested, understanding what is the need, who would be part of that task force, and how would we put Airdrie on the map. We've talked at length. I love it. So chambers can be more than just business support. If you drive into a lot of cities, they are your tourist information center.
Right.
But it's funny. We've asked. There's not an appetite in Airdrie currently, and I'm not sure if that's anything that we would consider in the near future. But we did talk about how we could be a bigger asset to our city as a chamber of commerce when it does come to maybe it's more of a welcoming center in general, like just something for not only residents but tourists. Because right now, where is our tourist information center?
Yeah, that's a good question. And
do you know?
No, I
don't. So we have the museum, which plays a very small part because their hours of operation are quite limited.
Right.
And then truly the other one, it is the Cross Iron Mills. They are a fully functioning tourist information center.
So I'm probably one of the most engaged citizens we have in Airdrie on sports tourism and tourism in general, and I didn't know that. That's telling. That's interesting.
I get a lot of phone calls. A lot of seniors think that we are a tourism information center because it's a habit that they've grown to see in other cities. So we field every call, and we're very kind about it. But in fairness, we're just Googling it with the same information anybody else would to be able to provide to a lot of the visitors coming into our region. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I noticed this year when I was driving out of the city for Culture Fest, not out of the city, but out of downtown, was the amount of cars on a Saturday that were taking a left and going back to the city. And it was one of the first times that I saw kind of a traffic jam leaving the city from one of our events.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great, seeing people spending a Saturday, spending money in our city and that kind of thing. And then I saw that summer at Nose Creek, there was almost an event there every day, every Saturday.
My daughter worked for the parks department, and she's
wow.
like, I don't know how I got this particular location. It was a lot of cleaning over the summer.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Do you see the chamber playing a role in helping those events continue to carry on? Or
we would. So it comes down to one thing, and that is whether or not the municipality wants us to play a role.
Fair.
And that would have to come with some kind of funding. So there is funding available provincially. Obviously, the big tourism locations get majority of the tourism dollars, the Drumhellers, the Canmores, and beyond.
Banff.
Yeah, of course. But if we did want to work together on grant applications, we would be helping. We would actually, it's interesting because I have to tell you, I've spoken to other communities. I'm not going to say Airdrie specifically. And the government, it is harder for the government to get things done because there's more red tape internally, just how processes work in general. So if you do want to get something done, sometimes you do give it to your Chamber of Commerce and you say, we've gotten a grant. Make it happen.
Right.
And we do, because the businesses are excited and then we want to get involved. And honestly, we would hire a contractor or something to make it happen. We've talked about, could we bring in, so the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like there are some really cool initiatives worldwide that chambers have implemented with the work that they do within their city. Yeah. So it's not the chamber alone, but the chamber has championed their Walk of Fame. So there's some opportunities without a doubt. Yeah.
Now, you just talked about the business awards. Do you want to highlight any of the winners?
Oh my gosh. So
Not to put you on the spot.
No,
but
absolutely. I mean, obviously Antoine and JS and the pest control guys, like he had quite the speech, and he'll let me tell you, it was so funny. So I was probably month 2 on the job at the chamber office, and you could rent our boardroom, and he was working for a different pest control company at the time. And I don't know if he's ever told you this story personally, but he said it at the awards. They booked the boardroom so they could actually fire him.
Oh, wow.
I was probably, I walked in going like, I don't know who these people are. That was super awkward. Fast forward, he starts his own business, obviously a competitor to the business that let him go. And he has just done phenomenal for this community. He joined our board of directors. Like he did everything he could to be a community-minded business. And fast forward, he just won Business of the Year, which is a pretty cool story. So yeah, his first meeting at the chamber wasn't the best one. And now he just won Business of the Year.
It's funny. I got to know him about 3 weeks before he moved to Airdrie because his son had tried out for the Alberta Summer Games team.
Nice.
And sight unseen, I hadn't seen JS yet. And Inwas is 6'3" kid. He's supposed to be 14 with a beard. And I'm like, all right, you made the team. I haven't seen you play yet. You're fine.
Sorry for the other kids out there.
Yeah. Whoops. And he turned out to be a great Mustang. But Antoine has always been such a strong supporter of community. One of the first things he did was help us get new jerseys at the school, and immediately had that community involvement. So to see him do so well and to see the pest control guy take off.
It's all about integrity, though. Like the reason his business is what it is today is complete integrity. Like he just, you know what you get. Yeah. And who doesn't want a guy who's going to kill the bugs and be honest about it, right? So, yeah.
And not to turn this into a full commercial for him, but every year I get spray done for spiders on my deck, and I never have any. Yeah. So I highly recommend that service if anybody else is looking.
His little motto is, I can get rid of everything but your mother-in-law. Like he's all about, he's just the best.
So they're funny.
Yeah, the other great one was Blake Clark. So his father, everyone knows because his name's attached to the dealership, Cam Clark Ford. Blake is just such a down-to-earth guy. He's so humble. He'll walk into our AGM, just sit down, not show any kind of like, look who just showed
the
up.
The name is basically on the city, and it has been for a long time. Yeah.
He's obviously, they're doing really well as a business. They've obviously expanded all over Western Canada into the US. And I mean, he is just a classy person. So yeah, when I told him that he was considered and he was officially the winner, it was quiet. We don't tell people until the awards banquet, but he knew in advance, of course, because it's not a vote. It's just we assign a committee to determine who some of the deserving people in our community are. And they bring forward some phenomenal names every single year. And I was just so thrilled that he took that one because, like I said, he's just too modest. He's just the best that way. So, yeah.
That's really cool. They gave us a Mustang every year for Airdrie Bowl for a while. And they literally just give me the keys and they go drive it. I'm like, are you insane? Like, this is a mistake on your part, but I'll take it for a spin.
I'll have fun. Yeah. It'll come back with a few extra kilometers on it.
Now, you had an event this year, or I think it was this year, and I was a little bit jealous that I couldn't go because you had Don Bell speaking.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Don, because I'm a former WestJetter, and Don's a legend and well-loved in the industry. So talk to me about his chance to speak to everybody.
Yeah, so that was our first ever leadership conference. It's going to be hard to beat.
Right.
Like, honestly, it was so cute. So we've been talking about consolidating like our learning. Like, so we had workshops pretty regularly and we said, no, that's enough. Like, there's too many in the year. Let's do a few bigger events. So let's do a leadership conference.
Right.
I think I brought the idea to my staff in November, and our first one we hosted was in February.
Oh, so, fantastic. That's a quick turnaround.
Totally. And the one, Cheryl, bless her heart, she's looking at me like, you're crazy. I'm like, nope, I promise you, I'll get the whole lineup. We're good. You just have to prepare the event, but it's the speakers that count.
Right.
Sure enough, I run into Don Bell, who is just like a genuinely good human, great family man. And he's like, yep, sign me up. We met a few times in between over drinks and coffee, and planned his keynote. And yeah, he's just unique in the sense that as much as he's done phenomenal things, the one question I asked him was, so like, honestly, what is the most important thing? And he's just flat out, my family. Like, none of this matters if I didn't have my family. And
I could have answered that question for you before you even said it.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that, again, like, you have all different types of leaders, but his relationships, that's what he taught us in his keynote. Like, we had a fireside chat. It wasn't of course, WestJet's phenomenal. You want to hear all about the growth and what happened in those first few years. But it was just how he made those relationships work for him and how they've continued to work throughout his entire life.
So about 2 weeks before September 11th, I was a 21-year-old check-in agent for WestJet at the time. And we had something called Black Thursday. Our ops computers broke. And so every flight was delayed half an hour, then 2 hours, then 4 hours. Then we canceled everything system-wide. So it was what 9/11 was for us.
Yeah.
I
think Don might have talked about that.
Well, and I had somebody come up to me, and, people always claim to know the owners, right? It's Calgary, so everybody knows the founders of WestJet, and everybody's best friends with them. And I had one guy come up to me and he goes, I'm friends with Don Bell, and I can't believe you treat me this way. I'm going to email him right away. And I turned around and I said, Don, come here for a sec. This gentleman knows you. And I just thought I'd save him an email, because Don is behind the counter making sure we all have water, we all have pizza, we all have food.
Did the guy really know him?
No, not at all. Hi, I'm Don Bell. I've never met you before.
Oh my God.
Kind of thing. But it was one of those memories that stuck out, because on those days where you had your hardest days you could possibly, I'm talking about it, 26 years later, as a difficult day at work, right? He's right there on the front line, making sure his people have what they need. So that was a really cool first guest, and I'm sorry I missed it, because it would have been great to see him again.
Yeah,
but
for sure. There'll be more.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, on that note, I mean, we're running up against it here for time a little bit, but as we approach 100,000 people, I think the projections will be 135 in the next 10 years. Where do you see the chamber, where do you see business in Airdrie ending up in that time?
Jeez.
Or I guess, where do you want to see it is a better question. Let's take a positive spin here. And
I really do hope our downtown sees the success that we're looking for.
Right.
I do believe, and I've seen this in other cities, a healthy downtown is obviously beneficial for everyone.
Right.
So that is for sure a goal that I see as being integral to our change in the next 30 years. Yeah, and I don't necessarily know how quickly industrial will grow,
Right.
but it has to. We
Yes.
know that, right? So yeah, it's a tricky one. We've been saying for years, like, business come organically to Airdrie. When you look at the numbers, who wouldn't want to show up?
Of course.
Right? We're the
Yeah.
fastest growing. So this is the place to be. But the market research needs to be done. We need to bring in the right businesses at the right time. And we do need to diversify.
Yeah.
So like we have wonderful businesses. The competition in certain areas needs to slow. And diversity needs to show up on our door. Like, we really do need to have more diversity when it comes to industry and growth. And I know economic development has some very exciting goals, and they can't tell us everything that's happening for our community. But we're a regional chamber, so we see industrial growth happening outside of our city limits. We want Airdrie to succeed.
Yeah.
I live here. I love Airdrie. I want to see the growth here in our community. Like Heather Spearman's campaign, she listened. I said to her, we need diversity. She had the numbers.
Yeah.
It is loud and clear that we do need that to happen in our city in the next 20, 30 years, for sure.
Well, I think the future is bright for Airdrie. And I think if we make some good decisions coming up in the next few years, we can really set ourselves up for success.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody who's thinking of opening a business here in Airdrie?
Honestly, you're going to feel part of the most supported community you can probably find out there. I do travel a lot with my work, and I come back every time, and I am always in awe at how much our community cares for one another. So I just say, come to Airdrie, be part of one of the most supportive communities you'll ever find.
Well, on that note, I don't think I could top that. So with that, my name is Chris Glass. Marilyne's been my guest today, and thank you for joining us on Airdrie Inside. We're going to be back with some more great stories coming up soon.